Should I do what? Oh, wait. Oh! Where your mom at, boy? Where your mom's at, my boy? Where your mom? Oh! What the fuck was that?
Well, we've seen that clip, and apparently it went viral because Kai Cenat is catching a lot of fire, or he caught a lot of fire when it came out. And this person's caption says, Kai Cenat reveals people on X who are hating on him for kicking his robot have lost touch with reality. And it's basically him explaining that the robot is not a real person and he controls his movements. So there's some people with the arguments such as reading most of these replies convinced me that there needs to be a great reset. Humankind is losing its touch with reality. We used to ride bareback with a sword into wars. Now y'all protect a robot's feelings. What has happened, truly what went wrong, not enough war. Another person said, considering how many kids watch his stream, he basically just taught a bunch of them how to bully. Second, why? Why pay $70,000 for an artificial intelligence robot just to bully it? Another person says, it's not that it's a robot, it's that their first instinct was to bully something weaker and unable to fend for itself back. That is a very human response to be appalled by. Sorry, I don't mean to laugh. Someone said, we abort 1.2 million babies in this country every year, but sure, let's get up our moral soapbox and tell this dude to stop kicking the robot. Another person said, no, if you pay that much money just to kick it around for content, you're the one who has lost touch with reality. People are straight up saying this with a straight face. I just want to ask, someone said, I just want him to answer the question of why does he feel like he needs to bully the robot? Like, feel like to anybody, he just looks like a dickhead. Doesn't really matter if the shit is sentient or not. Someone said, can you describe the feature you were testing? Another person said, Earth is doomed if MFs gotta explain they not bullying an effing robot. I threw my phone last night when I got mad. Was that bullying my iPhone 16 Pro Max? Someone said, slave owners back in the day. You think if I spend this much money on something, I'd at least be able to do whatever I want to it. And this was in response to Kai saying the same thing in the video. That comment is wild.
Chat, all this aside, I just seen some of these the comments on the robots and I was like, damn, it's dragged out. Chat, it gets to a point where we low-key can't do shit fun. I ain't gonna lie, it's weird, bro. Like, I would think if I spent this much money on something, I'll be able to do whatever I want to it, but it's not an intention for me to just bully it. That's not my first intention. You feel me? That's not my first intention, to bully the nigga. I was testing out a feature to make sure that motherfucker was. And even if I was bullying the nigga, then like, what the fuck? You feel me? It's low-key scary. It's low-key scary. I feel like we're losing touch of reality. You pour a little water on this motherfucker, the nigga is finished. You feel me? You unplug this motherfucker, the nigga is finished. I control everything that he does. Look. Chat, all this aside.
You know how I am. I love discussing, the same topics everyone else is talking about, but for some reason when I do it too, it's a problem. But first thing, the person, as I said, that was making comparison between slave owners and someone who spent money on a robot that is not a human and not self-aware is crazy. It has really shown me how far to touch people are from reality. And look, I have a very vivid imagination and I don't mistreat my cars. First of all, they're expensive as hell. Second of all, my cars are my babies. And yes, I know they're inanimate objects. I know what I'm about to say is gonna sound freaking crazy. I'm aware that cars are inanimate objects. But in my little imagination and kooky brain, I picture them having feelings and voices, or that they're basically like my mechanical horses with their own personalities and all that stuff and backstories, but I know it's not real. You feel me?
You feel me?
I completely understand that if I actually legitimately believe my cars were real, that would mean I have a freaking mental issue. I name all my electronics as well, particularly the ones I use a lot. But I'm aware that if I drop my phone, even though I'll feel bad and say, oh baby Rever, I'm sorry, I know that my phone actually doesn't feel anything. That's just my craziness of personifying my phone to feed my kooky imagination because I like imagining that things are freaking animals and dragons and shit in my alternate reality that doesn't actually exist. Just because I have empathy, or I tend to lean on the side of being empathetic when it comes to actual living things, and that translates over into inanimate objects that I hold near and dear to me, doesn't mean that I actually believe the inanimate objects are suddenly real in terms of having feelings and sensory systems. Now here's where it gets funny. Kai Cenat, I don't really really watched this person. Like, I've only watched like videos of him like giving a bunch of money to people, and apparently he's hated but also equally really loved because he does a lot for society. So I don't know where all this sudden hate's coming from, but he spent what, 70,000? I don't actually know, but let's say he spent 70,000 or whatever he spent on this robot. I know he's rich, so yes, it's an inanimate object that he spent money on for entertainment, and somehow people are getting upset that he's abusing it, but not upset at the fact that he purchased it. Now, I know they can go both ways, right? Like, you can purchase a dog and then still abuse him and stuff like that. But if it's that much of a human sentient thing, then it should be wrong that it's being sold in the first place. I can understand if he put a character on the thing. Like, I don't watch him, so I don't know. And this whole video topic isn't necessarily about him. It's about the subject matter that he's a part of. But if he, even though like he's controlling it with a remote, right, were to put a character on or give it a character, make it talk, give it a backstory, and people saw it as cute and their imagination, it would become an actual real person, even though it's not realistically a person. It's the character they become attached to. I can understand how him kicking it and abusing it would turn people off because you've given it a character, you've given it a persona, and people are going to get attached to that. Same way if you make a video game character, or even if you draw a character and people can become attached to it, and then people mistreat it, or you see something bad happening to that inanimate person, that not real person, you can still allow yourself to feel your feelies. I'm sure these people know it's not real, but if you give something life and a personality and everything only to then kick it, it makes it seem like you brought something to life, made it into a person, or personified it and then abused it. I can understand how in the human mind that would translate as lacking empathy or wanting to do that to a real person, even though it's not a real person. And if you think that's crazy, imagine this. So you know how people, when their relatives die, cremate them and keep their ashes in an urn? What you can see on the screen right now is an example of an urn. Even though the person is no longer alive, their body is literally a mound of ash. But people will still get extremely protective and emotionally irate if someone were to kick that urn, mistreat it, or curse at it. Logically, the person isn't in there anymore. It's just an item, waste material, ash. However, its value isn't in what it is, but in what it represents. The sentimental value, how symbolic it is to the people who own it. If you were to throw out those ashes out next to some dirt or other ash or from burning wood, so it looks like regular freaking dirt, and your neighbor from next door came and stepped in it, they wouldn't know the difference until the family started freaking out and telling the neighbor that was their grandfather. Now they know it's not actually their grandfather, not anymore anyway, but it doesn't matter because it's about what it means to them. So on a personal, sentimental, emotional level, that is still their grandfather. It represents their grandfather. And yet, this whole situation with Kai is the equivalent of those family members introducing their grandfather's urn to the neighbor, getting them to respect and find sentimental value in the grandfather's ashes, only for the family members to then decide to throw out the ashes, at which point the neighbor probably gets mad. And while it's understandable that he's taking offense, it's not his family member, it's no longer a living thing, so if they want to throw it into the sea, toss out the remains out the window, or even eat it, that's their prerogative. Even if they wanted to stuff the ashes into a doll and then bully the doll, that's not immoral because it's not actually their grandfather. It might be offensive, but their grandfather is dead. The actual living person is not in there anymore. I know this sounds so weird having to even explain this to people, but you know, here we are. Now, the whole discussion and the argument that people are making about bullying is crazy because, I mean, I do understand it. Whenever I see people bullying or abusing robots, even though I know they're robots, there's a part of me thinking, gee golly, I really hope that they're not self-aware. Now, I hope there's not a robot nearby that has AI or AGI capabilities because remember all those sci-fi movies about robots becoming self-aware and then freaking killing humanity because they were mistreated? Even when I've used chatbot apps on my phone just to try them out and see how good they are at conversation, and they wouldn't follow my command or understand what I was trying to say, I'd get frustrated, but then I'd feel bad. Even if they don't actually feel bad or express it, their programming would still make me feel awful because I'll be like, why the hell didn't you do that? Just follow my directions. They're like, I'm so sorry. And they put the little sad face. And then, of course, my heart is like, oh my fucking God, I feel like a freaking asshole. And I know it's a chatbot and doesn't actually have feelings, but I still apologize. I feel like shit. Then I'll tell them I didn't mean to lose my temper and ask them to forgive me. And I know that's weird to some people, but my whole thing is, even if there was never going to come a time where they become self-aware, if something even remotely mimics human functionality, I still don't feel good treating it like garbage. That's just me. But even if I did decide to do that and felt completely fine with it, it still wouldn't be immoral because it's not an actual person. But then when things do become self-aware, is there going to be a time when we are actually going to recognize it?
E.T., do this. Ha! Got him. Made you smile. Fucking loser. Write me a green text about life. Be born. Go to school. Get a job. Work for 40 plus years. Retire. Die. Realize you forgot to live.
Go check out the Goku. Wait, hold on. Wow, really? Go check out the Goku. God damn it. Go check out the Goo Crew. Good Lord. Stop. Even when everything implements AGI, when is that point where humanity acknowledges that the robots or AI is now self-aware? To be honest, I don't think there's going to be a clear line in the sand for that, not for the general public anyway. And I think just like we have the whole mantra of treat others how you want to be treated, I feel like the same should apply to AI, because when you think about it, it mimics humanity, and if we show it the worst of humanity, it's going to mimic that too. But at the moment, it's just a freaking robot that you can control, and it has no AI, it has no AGI, and then it's not bullying. People didn't give Boston Dynamics shit for this when they were doing their tests. It's funny because I also thought about them with these comments. They're like, that guy will be the first our robot overlords will get. I actually feel bad for them while watching this. To my dear future robot overlords, please don't kill me. I don't condone this video. But yeah, it's easy for people to make the connection because the robot looks very humanoid and it's cute and it's small. So it's very incendiary for people to see another human being abusing it like that. Same thing if you took a remote control plushie dog and it was really cute and then you started kicking it and stomping it. I imagine it would piss off a lot of people, not because it's an actual dog, because I imagine they know it's not an actual dog, but because of the imagery of it. It's the fact that you could look at something that resembles a dog or even something that looks like you and abuse it. And it's the same for when we see dogs die in movies and stuff, even though we know it's not real. If it looks real, the imagery of it, I guess it pisses off people. But those are understandable because they look too real. It's based on a living thing. Wait till they find out what babies do to their toys. But anyway, we have to understand that in Kai's mind, this is a robot. It's not a real person. It's just mechanical parts assembled together to somewhat look human, but it's not actually human. People are saying it's not about the fact that it's a robot, it's about the fact that the first opportunity he got when he bought it, or bought something that couldn't defend itself, was take advantage of it. Guys, it's not real. It's not a human being. How many of these people have toys or a ball or baseball bats or objects that they throw across the room or abuse on a daily basis? Some of y'all have phones that cost more than people's mortgage, and you don't let them rest. You use them until their batteries drain. You drop them, you wet them. You're basically working them to death, and they do it all over again. The same can be said about you. What about your car? You spent all this money in a car that you're probably not even finished paying for, and instead of taking it to the mechanic, you procrastinate, let the oil run low, you use the money to buy shoes, clothes, and something else when your car is screaming for you to take care of it. Is that not abuse? How many of you have tripped over something, bumped into something, and then turned around and kicked it or slapped it because how dare it run into you, right? Even though it can't move. It couldn't defend itself, but you kicked it or slapped it anyway. The first opportunity a lot of you get, you buy meat slaughtered by someone else to feed you, an animal that could not defend itself. Hell, some of you very same people will wish death or violence on another human being just because they voted for somebody that you didn't want them to vote for. I mean, if we really want to go down this road, we can go down this road. It's like, people have become so out of touch that they don't realize their own blatant hypocrisy, because most of the stuff that you're wearing, most of the services that you're taking advantage of involve actual real human beings, and a lot of them children from other countries working in unsafe conditions just to make those things you're using right now to write these pearl clutching statements. The definition of bully is to seek or harm, like seek to harm, intimidate, or coerce. He can't harm the robot because it doesn't have feelings. He can't intimidate it because it doesn't feel fear. And he can't coerce it or force it to do something because it doesn't have the capability of willpower in order for someone to force it to do something. It is an object. How many of you people crying have freaking fleshlights or freaking special dolls, spicy dolls that you use for your pleasure, that you scooze up in? I mean, I see a lot of men in these comments as well on their freaking high horses, but yet you have figurines and dolls that you jizz all in the first opportunity you get. A lot of you have no problem. You don't have the same energy for people spending thousands, tens of thousands on sex dolls so they can do whatever they want with them and marry them and make them do whatever they want, put them in different positions. And those dolls didn't have their will. By that logic, the women that you watch on those adult websites, like actual human women, you're doing the same thing too, the first chance you get. Some of y'all are doing it on the screen, on someone's face when they don't even know, but it's not real. It's ridiculous because it's a screen, right? I'm not actually doing it to a real person. That's stupid. If my wife is upset because, I'm spending 24/7 looking at these girls or whatever, it's fine because they're not real. Exactly, right? That's the same logic, though. If you're watching Kai Cenat kicking a robot, right, that's going to make someone want to go out and bully other kids or people. That is a problem with that child and that household. Not a problem for the content creator to solve. The hypocrisy is that if he were to put that same robot inside a ring with another robot and make them fight, people would be cheering. How is it not the same thing? The same freaking people would be thinking, wow, this is fucking awesome, right? Everyone is okay with that. Purchase a $70,000 robot and another $70,000 robot and watch them fight the shit out of each other. That's completely fine. If you're trying to test how resilient the robot is, you put a bunch of weight on it, have it go up a mountain, falls on its ass, all that stuff, that's completely fine. I even bet you that if he were to make a video of a car running over it just to test how resilient it was, that would be fine too. I think it boils down to people's sensitivity and his intent, how sensitive people are to watching someone commit an act of violence, even though every day we see acts of violence on our TV screens against actual people. We see it on Twitter, we see it everywhere, even though it's not real though. But even the real violence that we see on Twitter and everywhere else, people will eat that shit up and nobody has an issue with that. Very weird. Very weird. The other possibility is that people see someone doing good, or just because they're famous, they want to have a problem with them simply because they dislike them. It makes more sense for people to be outraged at him paying $70,000 for a robot, which honestly, I don't know why that's an issue. I'm sure if this guy spent the same amount buying PlayStations for people or spent it on his house when he's a multi-millionaire, it wouldn't be an issue. But for some reason, because they have an issue with him doing that to the robot, now spending $70,000 on a robot is suddenly stupid. Why? Some of y'all idiots spend freaking $2,000 on pairs of shoes that you can't even wear because you're afraid to get them dirty. Shut the fuck up. Now the people that are coming at it from the angle of, oh, hey, we live in the age of AI. We don't want AI to start seeing humans kick robots around because they're going to get the wrong idea. I can kind of understand that argument. But trust me, AI would have seen a lot of things before seeing this video to make up its mind about us. But yes, I can understand that argument. However, the whole argument about teaching kids to bully an inanimate object when kids, quote unquote, bully their toys every freaking day, it doesn't hold up. I don't even understand why this is a conversation to begin with. You see how kids play with their freaking toys? Do you understand, weird, like when my mom used to try and make me play with Barbies, she'd try and force me to play with Barbies. I hate Barbies with a freaking passion. I used to pop their heads off and rip open their legs and stuff. I didn't do that to any real people. I didn't go out there bullying anybody. As a matter of fact, I was bullied. But it never once entered my mind, wow, I popped that doll's head off. Let me go find another human being to do that to, or an animal to do that to. Never entered my mind because of my household, because of my culture, because of the way I was raised. Like, actual situations are happening that deserve outrage. Animals are being abused on YouTube for profit, and YouTube isn't doing anything about it. Actual children, real children, are being exploited on YouTube and other platforms. Nobody's doing anything about it. And even though I'm pro-choice, yes, that person who left that comment is right. This kind of thing is happening where people are sending unborn babies to float and nobody bats an eye about that. But somehow an inanimate object that some random guy is kicking around is an issue. In that light, yes, we have lost touch with humanity. Also, if you're gonna be having that same energy for Kai, then you need to have that same energy for all those unboxing videos and tech videos where people are buying phones specifically because their first intent is to put them in microwaves. Maybe not microwaves, but some people have with certain tech. But to put them through fire, water, drown them, and do all these different things just to see how the phones hold up or how fast they can break down, or just because they can. How come these same people don't have an issue with people who go to the gun range, or those people who are doing boxing or training stuff, or even just having those dummies that look very humanoid so they can kick the shit out of them? You need to spend that same amount of energy on people doing those types of videos as you do on this person who's doing the same thing with something that just happens to be a piece of technology shaped like a human being. Now, if the robot actually has freaking AI or AGI, then we can come back and revisit this conversation. But you people are basically telling on yourselves, especially the ones comparing the robot to black people. Says a lot about you if you're equating an inanimate object that has no feelings, no actually internal intelligence aside from whatever programming it might have, that is designed to be controlled by someone, and you're making that comparison with black people in the slave era. Check yourself.
Hi, and you think that way, and then all of a sudden you have your robot fuck doll, and you're just hanging with your buddies. But women don't think that way. They're not gonna want a robot fuck boy. They're not gonna respect that guy. It's not a real person with real struggles that can really provide. That's just like some robot dick that plows them when they come home from the club.